Live from the virtual New Smyrna Speedway in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, welcome sim racing fans to the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series live on Apex Racing TV. I'm your host Joshua Lee. Joining me here in the booth is Brian Delp with Marco Barbanera controlling the cameras. Brian, this is week 2 of this series. Last week we were in New Hampshire. This week we're at a much shorter track with more banking here in New Smyrna. What are you expecting from these drivers in the heat races and feature here tonight?
Well, I think one of the biggest thing is drivers are going to kind of see what happened last week at New Hampshire. That's a bigger track, and we had all those cautions. I think a lot of the drivers might settle down a little bit, especially at the start of the race, because you have to make it to that finish, and with some of the changes that admins have made this week, that's going to make things tough as we see some of the crashing going on in practice. And this track, like you mentioned, drives completely different. It's not as big. There's so much more banking. You can send this car in there harder. It's definitely a track that you can make passes on if needed. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these guys take it and see who has patience and who doesn't.
And speaking of changes made from last week to this week, the admins have made a couple of changes to the race format. First of all, only 22 cars will make it into the feature as opposed to the 24 that we saw last week. But another change, 0 fast repairs. They had some fast repairs back in New Hampshire. Now that has been limited to 0 fast repairs. You have to get that damage fixed instead of completely fixed, maybe partially in the pit road. They have 1 tire limit now, so that means they are only going to be able to change tires once throughout this race. And a new penalty system. Every wreck caused by a driver will give them a half a point. They receive 2 points. They lose 15 of the total championship points and an EOL for the next race, and receive 3 points. You're disqualified from the next event and lose 25 of the championship points. With every clean race, removing those points. Brian, like you said, you're expecting those drivers to be a little calmer than they were in New Hampshire. Do you think that this is going to help keep them calmer over the series length to hopefully have a great championship in the last 9 races?
Yeah, I definitely do, because it kind of gives you that punishment, because you can't just send a car in there and possibly make touch someone else and cause a wreck anymore or take damage to yourself. You have to be patient. You have to really work the car in front of you and be patient with your moves, because if you cause a wreck, you then get punished for it. And that's going to make these drivers realize that they have to calm down, they have to keep the car under control, and they need to be safe when on the track.
Let's go now to our championship points. Bobby Sant Jr., your winner from New Hampshire, currently holds that top spot in the points. He was able to grab 4 bonus points, making a total points for him of 90 going into tonight. But looking at that live timing, it doesn't look like Bobby Sant Jr. is in the session. So we are most likely going to see a brand new points leader here tonight if Bobby Sant Jr. doesn't get into the session before that qualifying session ends. But Tyler Catalano sits in second in the points. He is back behind the leader by 5 points. 8 points behind in third is Matthew Lambert. Kenny Zeems is 9 points behind in fourth. And Chris Downing is currently in 5th, 12 points behind the leader here in the championship point standings. And Brian, another thing tonight, both of the Zeems unable to make it. This is going to be a huge shakeup in that championship points.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of guys possibly take advantage of this. Now, one thing was that last week's race was a double points race. So some of the guys at that top that may be missing got some of those extra points last week, and hopefully they can kind of save some of it if they can't make it this week, because we know some of them can't. But for some of the people that are here, the Catalanos, people like that Matthew Lambert, another one, that they have advantage here to get a good finish and put themselves way out ahead of the field. So if you look for those guys to be some of your top drivers tonight, because they're going to want to keep their cars clean to get the best finish possible.
We know, especially in league racing here on iRacing.com, that each race counts towards that points championship. And it is important to make sure that you are on top of your game throughout the series. And taking a look at the live timing right now, Kyle Sisko. We did not see him last week. He is making his debut here tonight in the 62. He currently holds that top spot. In second, it's Kyle Eli, another driver who is brand new to this series for this week. They are making their first starts. They're going to have a lot of catching up to do in the championship, as we have 3 minutes left in practice. Trevor Catalano in the 54 currently sits in the third spot. Matthew Lambert in fourth. Patrick Hoosier, who you're currently looking at behind the wheel of that white number 7 car, sits in fifth, as we have a little less than 3 minutes remaining here in practice before we head to qualifying, where 6 drivers will make their way into tonight's feature race. Everybody else is going to have to fight their way through the heats.
Yeah, and as we're riding on here, you can kind of see this track is much different than New Hampshire, like we mentioned. It's got that high banking in the turns, and then when you push out the car, you can hear the wheels squealing because you are putting a ton of load on this car when you get back into that gas. The most effective way to drive this thing is to be able to put it right out against that wall on exit, but this track is also a passing track. If someone is underneath you or on the outside, it's going to be very difficult to do that, and you can pinch someone down here. There's so many different ways to drive this track and different ways to possibly have cautions also. So look for these guys to use every advantage they can in every part of this track to make sure they get a good finish.
Brian, are you expecting tire wear to be an issue tonight, especially since they only have one tire set that they can put on throughout the feature?
I think if we go for those green flag runs, I think tire wear could definitely be an issue, because we heard how much the tires are squealing and how much you are putting so much usage on this tire. And with one set, you can't just come down multiple times. You got to definitely make sure you come down at the right moment, because if you come down too early towards the end of the run, towards that checkered flag, you're not going to have it. But if you come down too late, you won't have the time to make it back up through that field. So you really got to time down when to make that pit stop to get those new tires.
Take a look at that weather graphic on the side of your screen, courtesy of Apex Racing TV. 78-degree air temp, a pretty hot air temp compared to, I believe, what we saw last week is a little bit cooler than that, but that track temperature is much cooler than what we saw, 84 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is only going to go down as the sun goes down. We're currently in the late afternoon stages of today here at New Smyrna Beach. And as that sun goes down and the moon comes up, it's only going to become cooler, and that means the track is going to become faster, and the drivers are going to become a little braver as we go through the heat races in the feature. But we are 30 seconds away from sending the cars out on single car runs for qualifying. Kyle Sisko is going to end the session on the top of the leaderboard with Kyle Eli in second. Both of them laying down some very fast times. 16.48 from Kyle Sisko, 16.50 from Kyle Eli. Tyler Catalano also laying down a 16.50. The next fastest time is Matthew Lambert in fourth with a 16.58. As you're currently taking a look at Nicholas Casey in the 86, currently 22nd on the speed charts, trying to find a little more speed out of that car. As the checkered flag comes out here in practice, we're getting ready to qualify. And remember, the top 6 from qualifying will make their way automatically into tonight's feature race. They won't have to worry about racing their way through our heat races. And 3 minutes is on the clock. Let's see where everybody's going to qualify as drivers take to the track here in New Smyrna.
Another thing that I wanted to mention, we saw in practice there a little bit, this wall can be deceiving. We saw a lot of guys making contact with that wall on exit, especially on the exit of 4. The wall has kind of like an indent there where it gets kind of weird looking. So a lot of these guys may push up higher thinking that it'll be okay. And then we saw that's where a lot of times the contact would come into place. So that's something to look out for.
First drivers taking the green flag. They'll come around to take the checkered flag for their first laps of qualifying. As you are taking a look at now the number 12 car coming across. And it looks like we have Bobby Sand Jr. in the session. He was able to make it in on time. Our points leader will be racing tonight as Trevor Catalano goes to the top of the leaderboard with a 16.47, a blazing fast time, faster than any time in practice. So the 54 at the top of the leaderboard. The next fastest time is a 16.60 by his brother Tyler Catalano in the 64. So the Catalano's on top, the top 2 currently in this session. The 64 going to reset for another lap. Here's your winner from last week, Bobby Sant Jr., starting right back off from where he left off at 16.555. He'll hop up into second place as Trevor Catalano continues to hold that top spot as we're halfway through qualifying.
Yeah, a couple people haven't set down a lap yet. Kyle Eli is one that we saw high in practice, but hasn't quite set a lap yet. So we'll have to see where he shakes out. So a lot of guys that are at the top right now may not be there by the end of this thing. And same with Kyle Cisco. They're both sitting down there, haven't put in a time yet. So we'll see where they go once their laps get in.
Still at the top of the leaderboard is Trevor Catalano. William Kruzka jumped up into P number 2 with a 16.55. And everybody else finishing up their lap times. You're looking at the 28 of Stephen Barber, currently 22nd on the leaderboard. Now taking a look at Kyle Cisco, and he's going to go to the top of the charts. 16.417. What a time from that 62 car. Now on the bubble to make it into the feature is Matthew Lambert. In the 48, he is in the 6th position. Remember, top 6 make their way into the feature automatically. Don't need to race through our heats tonight. Patrick Hosier in 13th now, coming across the line. Stephen Barber, can he improve? No, he won't. His fastest time is still a set 17.177. Now Kyle Eli coming across the line for the first time, and he's going to go into 2nd place with a 16.454. And that'll put Brian Osborne onto the bubble. Chris Downing now 1 position off in 9th. Sorry, that was actually going to put Tyler Catalano onto the bubble, but as the time expires, your top 6 make it into the feature, as it is time for our first heat of the night. On the pole is the driver that just barely missed making it into the feature. It will be Matthew Lambert, but there's your top 6. You can see it up on the screen. Kyle Cisco in 1st, Kyle Eli in 2nd, Trevor Catalano in 3rd, William Kruzka in 4th, Bobby Sant Jr., a points leader, in 5th, and Tyler Catalano in 6th. Brian, do you think those top 6 making it into the feature automatically are going to have an advantage or a disadvantage because they're going to have less track time than the drivers racing out of the heats?
I think it's definitely an advantage. It may be less track time, but when you have track position, which this is a short track, and short tracks, track position can be key, especially with the new penalty system they've put into play. So that's track position is going to be everything. Along with that, they also don't have to go through the risk of being in a heat and possibly wrecking and not making that field, as we do know that some drivers will be going home.
Taking a look at your starting grid for this heat. Matthew Lambert on the pole, Chris Downing in 2nd. Starting in 3rd will be Cullen Johnston. 4th, Russell Peets. 5th, Daniel Hutchins. 6th, Chad Garlisi Jr. 7th, Jody Reinhard. 8th, Jason Hand. 9th, Nicholas Casey. And James Sullins rounds out your top 10. And remember, only the top 4 are guaranteed a spot in the feature here out of heat number 1. 7 laps for heat number 1. And we're getting ready. Sorry, there's 8 laps here in heat number 1, and we're getting ready to go green flag racing from New Smyrna Beach for the first time here tonight. We're glad you're joining us here on Apex Racing TV. And it is time to let these tour modifieds loose here at the New Smyrna Beach Speedway. The iRacing.com pace car into pit road. We're green flag racing in heat number 1. Lambert leads them into 1.
We'll see how they shake out behind us. We saw that they are too wide, which you can be here. Like I've mentioned, the banking, it helps out a lot. But it looks like the drivers on the bottom definitely get the bigger run. As it looks like they're single file right now, all the way back 1 through 4. It looks pretty safe. 5th is right behind, though, and that is Daniel Hutchins trying to chase down Cullen Johnston for that final transfer position.
Russell Peets was able to grab a position on Cullen Johnston, but that was not for a transfer spot. That was inside of the top 4. Currently fighting for a transfer spot is the 29 of Daniel Hutchins, trying to catch the 84 of Cullen Johnston. And you can see he's right there, just not close enough to make a move. Everybody's single file for the meantime, as we're going to come across the line and take 5 laps to go here in heat number 1. You're looking at the battle for the transfer spot right now.
Yeah, and it's really easy to really make a pass here if you can. As long as you can get a run somewhere and get your nose in the
and the 28 gets spun by the 31. The 28 turned around by the 31. So there's a 29 car of Daniel Hutchins. He was fighting for that transfer spot. And unfortunately, I think that 31 thought he was a little faster, and he turned him right around coming off of turn 2. Here's that contact in the replay. It just looked like a little contact coming off at 2. It looks like the 97 also got involved. That's Chad Garlisi Jr.
It took a lot of people out of play, but it does put Colin Johnston into the 4th position now. So we'll have to see how everything shakes out or what happens there. That was Jody Reinhardt who got into the back of the 29 there. So we don't know how this is going to shake out. A couple laps left. Oh, and the 86 is around.
86 around with 2 to go. That's Nicholas Casey. He's getting back up, going well as Jason Hand almost got taken out by the 31 of Jody Reinhardt. They're not fighting for a transfer spot. Hand in the 5th spot as they're going to come through turns 3 and 4 for the final time here in heat number 1. Matthew Lambert going to grab the win in the 48. Chris Downing in 2nd, Russell Peets in 3rd, and Colin Johnston rounds out your top 4. They are now locked into tonight's feature race as we have heat number 2 coming up, the final heat of the evening. And we'll see who else can get locked into the feature. The rest of the spots are not guaranteed. They're all provisional spots determined by the iRacing service. As it's time to take a look at your starting grid for heat number 2 here at New Smyrna Beach Speedway. Matthew Lambert won that heat number 1. And Chris Downing, Russell Peets, and Colin Johnston will join the 6 that got in through qualifying for the feature race. Jason Hand just barely outside of that transfer spot. And here's the starting grid for heat number 2. Brian Osborne will lead him to the green flag. Casey Hatch in 2nd. Dave Bichinar in 3rd. Patrick Hosier in 4th. Bobby Rafferty in 5th. Ignacio Adames in 6th. Hunter Azaik in 7th. James Gerald in 8th. And Stephen Barber will round out the field in 9th. A couple new faces. A couple faces that we've been seeing for a while here at the East Coast Thunder eSports. This is race number 2 of the evening and race number 2 of the season. Last week we had New Hampshire. Bobby Sant Jr. got the win. And we're heading into heat number 2 to determine the final 4 that will get the automatic bye into the feature race here tonight.
Yeah, and as we saw, this race is going to be a showstopper. In the last one we saw there was contact made, and these guys are fighting for that feature spot, and we know there's no cautions in these heats, so these guys are going to use that bumper. The sad part is for those that do maybe get turned around like we saw last time, because there is no caution to save you. If you get turned around, you're most likely out of this thing.
The field going to make their way off of turn 3 and 4 once again to take the green flag here in heat number 2. The 15 of Brian Osborne leads him to the green flag. The 14 on the outside. The 15 not going to clear him. The 14 going to have a chance for the lead. They're side by side through 1 and 2.
Yeah, and what that does, if you ever have watched racing, you know that being side by side allows the guys behind to catch up to you, because you're just fighting, and those people, if they're not fighting, can catch up. But we see that the 3 and the 7 are fighting right now, and the 3 get pushed up to the top lane. Sorry, that was the 07 fighting. Oh, and there's a big wreck there. It looks like the 38 and the 8.
The 38 and the 8 are around to the back straightaway, but this is the battle for the transfer spot here between the 7 and the 3. The 3 car has it now. He's in 4th, but here comes the 7 back on the inside as the 3 hits the wall. Patrick Hosier goes into that transfer spot. The 7 will take over the 4th spot with 5 laps to go now on the racetrack. Brian Osborne continues to lead with Casey Hatch right behind.
Yeah, and it looks like the top 4 at the moment seem to be pretty far clear. 5th place is there a little bit, Gerald, but I'm not sure he'll have the time with the amount of laps left to really get in front of Hosier, unless Hosier has some damage, but I don't think so. It seems like he's pulling away a bit.
The 14 of Casey Hatch making his debut here tonight. He was not in the race last week in New Hampshire. Sorry, he was. He currently is 7th in the points. As we have 3 laps to go, the 14 currently holding off that 7. As the 92 of James Gerald is the car currently scored in 5th, trying to catch the 7 of James Hosier for that 4th spot to get automatically into tonight's feature race. As Brian Osborne continues to lead this field with Bobby Rafferty doing a great job. He started in 5th in this heat race. He is up 3 positions now in 2nd. That 007 car has a very fast engine under his modified here tonight.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things where putting yourself in the right position here, especially we saw a lot of contacts happening, but we also saw guys just making sure that they kept their line and forcing others into a mistake, as we saw before when the three got put up and out. It made it very difficult for him going forward.
Osborne, Rafferty, Hatch, and Hosier will get into the feature race automatically. They are the top 4, and we'll see who else will join them on provisionals as it is time for tonight's feature race. They're going to head into a short warm-up first, but then we'll be racing in the feature race. A 3-minute warm-up now on track as Brian Osborne, Bobby Rafferty, Casey Hatch, and Patrick Hosier finish in the top 4. They'll move on to the feature as James Gerald, Stephen Barber, Ignacio Adames, Dave Bichinar, and Hunter Izaik round out your field from heat number 2 as we have 22 drivers now that will be racing in tonight's feature race as everybody taking to the track for a short 3-minute warm-up to begin the festivities before we head into tonight's feature race. Brian, the heat races were a little bit chaotic. We saw calm heat races last week, and that led into an exciting feature. Do you think we're going to see exciting heat races tonight, leading in to almost somewhat of a boring feature with not a lot of cautions and a lot of green flag time?
It really just kind of depends on how these guys end up feeling going into it. We know that there's no cautions and you're fighting for that transfer spot in the heats. But we do know, like we've mentioned before, there is a new penalty system, and these guys don't want penalties because that is a heavy point deduction if you end up getting into that penalty zone. So you want to stay clear, and you don't want to be the one making the cautions. You want others to be doing it. So we'll kind of see how these guys go. Maybe they'll race a little bit cleaner, knowing that penalties are on the line along with actual points, and we'll see what happens.
The two Kyles, Eli and Cisco, the two fastest currently on the leaderboard, and they have been the two fastest cars all night. They qualified 1-2, and they're 1-2 here in the warm-up, with William Kruska in 3rd, Hosier 4th, and Russell Peets in 5th. As 1 minute remains here in the 3-minute warm-up before the feature race kicks off. You're taking a look at that 7 car of Patrick Hosier. Right behind him looks to be the 007. Sorry, that's the 07 of Kyle Eli.
Yeah, that's going to be, that might be a little confusing for us there, folks. So if we get that wrong once or twice tonight, we apologize already. But yeah, so these guys are going to put on a great show for us, I hope. And it's just going to be a lot of fun because we have some names spread throughout the field who are going to look to move up and try and make up those points.
We have a lot of names in the field that we did not see last week in New Hampshire. So this will be the first time we're seeing them live on broadcast in this race, making their debuts in a feature. And that is going to be incredibly important for the rest of the season to see who really is going to be the outliers and the big names of this series in this 10-week run for the championship. Another review of our championship points. Bobby Sant Jr. is your points leader. Tyler Catalano in 2nd. Matthew Lambert 3rd. Kenny Zeems 4th. And Chris Downing 5th. Kenny Zeems, unfortunately, he is not racing tonight. So that spot is going to go to another driver. The question is, who will it be and how will the points shake up? We're getting ready for a 60-lap feature. Here is your starting grid. Kyle Cisco will start on pole. In 2nd, it's Kyle Eli. 3rd, Trevor Catalano. 4th, William Kruska. Bobby Sant Jr. will start 5th. He is your points leader. Tyler Catalano in 6th. Matthew Lambert 7th. Brian Osborne 8th. Chris Downing 9th. And Bobby Rafferty rounds out the top 10.
And in 11th, we have Russell Peets. 12th is Casey Hatch. In 13th, we have Colin Johnston. 14th, Patrick Hosier. 15th, Jason Hands. 16th is James Gerald. 17th is Jody Reinard. 18th, Stephen Barber. 19th is James Sullins. And in 20th, we have Ignacio Adames.
Nicholas Casey and Dave Bichinar round out your 22-car grid as they now roll off from pit road. 22 NASCAR Tour Modifieds are getting ready to go racing for 60 laps around the new Smyrna Beach Speedway. This speedway just located about 30 minutes south of the Daytona International Speedway. The up northeast edge of Florida is rich in racing history, whether it is the classic Jacksonville Speedway down to the historic Daytona International Speedway, and even here at the new Smyrna Speedway, a very famous short track among the touring NASCAR series. And we're getting ready to let 22 Tour Modifieds loose for 60 laps of this feature. A lot of new names for the series starting tonight, a lot of names that we're still looking at to see will they be a factor in the championship, and a lot of points on the line to see how the championship will shake up. Week 1 is over. Week 2 just about to begin. The iRacing.com pace car gonna pull off into pit road, and the 62 of Kyle Sisko is gone. Green flag here at New Smyrna.
Yeah, he did a great job of getting clear there, and it actually allowed the two behind to get into a little bit of a battle there, not for long, but he is out in the clear right now, and we see even back through the field, they're kind of starting to filter in, it seemed like. There's a few battles going on, but I also saw a lot of single file racing happening.
Currently looking at the battle between Casey Hatch and Russell Peets. Peets on the inside, Hatch on the outside. We're gonna now hop up to the battle for 5th now. You're looking at the battle for 6th currently between Lambert and Catalano on the inside. That is going to be Chris Downing in the 51. As Kyle Sisko continues to lead this race as we're on lap number 3. Some battles back in the pack here, and everybody looking to be single file for the time being, feeling out their cars. Because remember, for the 6 drivers that qualified in and did not have to race through the heats, they have not felt how their car will handle in traffic at all tonight. And as the sun continues to lower, this track is going to ever change. As we're going to head on to lap number 5, Sisko continues to lead. You're on board with the 6 of William Kruska, trying to find a way around the 131 of Bobby Sant Jr., who got 1 position up on him since the green flag.
Yeah, and if you're watching while you're on board here, you can hear it a little bit from the tires. If you get on the gas too early, that back end will actually try to come around here. It's just something that happens when you have so much wheel input into the car.
Oh, one car around. Caution, don't believe is out yet. Now it is. The caution is out. It looks like Ignacio Adama is involved. The 28 of Stephen Barber also involved. And it looks like there was an incident coming off of turn number 4. Let's take a look at this replay. There's the 3 and the 86. Not sure if they were involved in this. There's the 38. We saw him around. Let's see what happened. Oh, and it looks like a little bit of a contact with the 92. The 38 got turned. The 28 nowhere to go. Just heard a little bit of chatter over the radio, and I believe that was the 92 of James Gerald. He said that car just got tight and went right up the hill into the 38, and you can see it. Both of them kind of getting a little bit tight there, and it looks like James Gerald just not able to get that 92 car woed up in time, and that is what's going to cause the first caution of the evening.
Yeah, and it looked like the 38 actually kind of got a little bit of contact possibly with the 31 of Joni Reinhardt in front, or at least tried to slow down to not make contact, and that's what sent him up the hill. And so then at that point, it was kind of just, it got the car behind, got tight, and it just, the 92 just went straight up the track into him, and that's when the whole big accident happened.
Kyle Sisko has led since the drop of the green flag. In fact, no change of our top 3 since the drop of the green flag. Kyle Eli in 2nd, Trevor Catalano in 3rd. Now these drivers are going to have to decide, do they want to come down pit road, because they only have 1 tire set to put on during this feature race. So they're only going to have 2 sets of tires, the one they're currently on and the one they can change onto. And we can see that temperature, air temperature dropping a little bit since practice and qualifying, now 77 degrees Fahrenheit, with the track temp dropping to 82. And as the sun continues to drop, so will that track temp. And as it gets cooler, these drivers are going to get a little braver because that grip level is going to increase as the track temp decreases. So it'll be interesting to see how the racing evolves throughout this feature race. Your biggest mover currently on the field is Nicholas Casey in the 16.
Yeah, and this is one of those cases where I don't think we're going to see anyone come down unless you were in that wreck to maybe get some damage fixed. We talked about only having one set of tires. This is just way too early to come down for that because you barely were running. You ran a couple laps, but for how long you're going to be running, you probably want to try and split this and come down halfway at the earliest.
That is assuming their tire wear is grand enough for them to warrant new tires on. Some guys might try and go without coming down pit road tonight. And we'll see how the strategy evolves and how the racing evolves as the pace car pulls back into pit road. In control of the field, Kyle Sisko in the 62. He gets a good jump, and they're going to lean to one, and a lot of bumping on the outside between the 131, the 07, and the 62. Now Trevor Catalano to the inside in the 54. He's looking for the lead with the 62, going to clear him into 3.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened there. He kind of went up and then just kind of stopped, and then there was a ton of contact, so we might have to get another look at that later possibly if we can, but that was just a really weird restart, and we saw what happened because of it. A lot of guys got checked up and possibly have a lot of damage now.
Well, grabbing that lead is the 62, and he's starting to pull away as there's a lot more contact in the back. William Kruska around, your points leader, Bobby Sand Jr. into the wall.
Yeah, and it looked like there was a blown engine there on Kruska, and if so, that's going to end his race because we talked about no fast repairs this week. So that'd be unfortunate to have it end this early. Just these guys settled in for a second, and then now everyone's on that push again.
Here's the replay of that restart. And that restart was very interesting. A lot of contact on the top. And it almost looked like the 62 might have either missed a shift or kind of stalled out on that outside line because here comes the 131 and the 7 right into his bumper.
Yeah, I think he did miss a shift. I think he went up there, and it could have even possibly been that he just missed his shifter altogether. It was just a really weird incident because we saw it happen basically right after the actual start-finish line. So that's not a place you would be braking yet. So the only real logical thing would be that a shift was missed.
Let's see if we can get a replay of that incident between that 6 car and the 131. Here it is, and it just looks like that 6 of William Kruska just getting a little bit too loose coming through turn 3. And it looks like that car got sideways. He tried to chase it, and just up into the wall it went, with the 131 of Bobby Sand Jr. having nowhere to go. That's going to be an interesting development for our points because Bobby Sand Jr. is our current points leader. And it is assumed that after tonight, he's currently scored in 21st with a damaged race car, and he will not be points leader for long.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, and we heard it right there, he got in that gas a little too hard in exit there, and the car just wiggled and got loose right in front of Bobby Sant Jr. And at that point, there's nowhere to go. It actually looked like he may have overcorrected it there, and that's what sent him nose first into the wall. And that's unfortunate for our points leader being right behind the thing.
Here's another replay of that restart. A lot of contact on the outside line. On board with the 62 of Kyle Sisko. It did sound like the car just stalled out. Could it be possible that he is using a hand shifter instead of a paddles on his steering wheel, and it's possible that he's shifted into neutral instead of the next gear?
It's quite possible. I've seen it happen before from different people, so it's definitely a possibility. That was just really weird because, as like you mentioned, it just seemed like the car just shut off right past the start-finish line because there wasn't any. I didn't hear any gas or any engine at all, really. So that's a really weird situation.
Well, the field back 2x2 down the New Smyrna Beach Speedway, back straight away. As we're getting ready to go back to racing here at New Smyrna in the feature race. Pace car back into pit road, 62 back to the lead, onto lap number 20 of 60 here tonight. The 62 with a good getaway. Right behind is the 07 of Kyle Eli. These two have been the fastest all night. Your top three still unchanged from when we went to green flag, but we have a battle for 6th place to the inside. Brian Osborne trying to take over that 6th spot from Matthew Lambert, as we have trouble in the back with the 7 of Patrick Hosier around. A couple other cars getting damaged, and it looks like getting into them was that 14 of Casey Hatch. Coming off of turn 4, we're back under caution for the 3rd time tonight.
Yeah, and this is another just racing incident, and it's cautions breed cautions, as we see. The 86 was on that bottom, and as you know, on exit, when depending on where you are on the track, will determine when you get back into that throttle. So the 7 of Patrick Hosier was up about a lane, if even, above, and just his getting back in time to the throttle just was later than what the car behind was expecting, and as we saw at that point, just he ended up getting turned.
It is also possible that he was trying to arch that corner a little bit, go in on the bottom, move up to the middle line, move back to the bottom before coming back onto the straightaway. We see it all the time at tracks like Darlington. And it's possible he's trying to do that, and the 38 just had his nose in there slightly and turn him around. We got cars coming down pit road. We'll see if they end up changing tires. But if they're not going to change tires, this is just damage repair from everybody in the pits. And it looks like tires will be changed on the 7 car. Patrick Hosier going to get rid of his 1 tire set. So we know that the 7 of Patrick Hosier has no tires left, and I'm not sure about anybody else on the track. We'll have to keep up with the developing story of the tire sets here tonight.
Yeah, and so far, the first person who has been on pit road in terms of the drivers out on track is the 51 of Chris Downing. He was in on lap 7. So far, everyone above him has not been in yet at all, so we all know that they don't have tires. We're not sure if he took them or not, or if he just went in to possibly get some damage fixed. But that's another development that could possibly play out if he already got his tires, and when the others come in, he might just stay out and pick up a ton of track position.
Currently in the lead is Kyle Cisco in the 62. Kyle Eli in second in the 07. Trevor Catalano in third in the 54. In fourth, it is Tyler Catalano. In fifth, it's Bobby Rafferty. Sixth, Matthew Lambert. Seventh, Brian Osborne. Eighth, Russell Peets. Ninth, Jason Hand. And Nicholas Casey will round out your top 10. And I got to give a shout out to Nicholas Casey. Up 11 spots since the start of this race. He started in 21st. He is now in 10th. What an incredible drive for him tonight. We'll see if he can keep marching his way up through the field and possibly make his way to the lead. But right now, it's the Kyle and Kyle show up front with the Catalanos right behind. Cisco has been unable to drop back from that lead tonight. He has led every single lap with Kyle Eli right there in second. We'll see if that changes here on the restart. Field back 2 by 2. Getting ready to end this third caution with our third restart of the night. 62 on the inside, 07 on the outside, the front row. There goes the Ford Mustang iRacing pace car. We're back green at New Smyrna.
Yeah, and as we saw, Cisco's been going early on the restarts. He is timing it so that it makes it difficult for Kyle Eli to be able to time it up, because if you get on the outside, you can make a pass on the outside here if you can just get your momentum going, because you get such a run on exit if you can run the corner properly, as we see here.
He's trying to get that lead, and he's going to clear him. First new leader of the night, it's Kyle Eli. In the 07, he's going to take the lead away from Kyle Cisco. But Cisco right back on that back bumper, not letting him get too far. Only about a half a car length between these two as the 62 gets loose. That is going to extremely make that gap larger between Eli and Cisco. Cisco going to give that spot up, and he is now going to settle into second currently on the leaderboard as Trevor Catalano sits in third, watching this battle for the lead unfold.
Yeah, and we saw that he was pushing to get back to that lead. He wanted to get right back to that back bumper. Got on that gas too early, like we saw Kruska do earlier, and it just got loose. That's not the last time we're going to see that tonight, as these guys are pushing harder for any points that they can get.
To the inside of the 3, that is the 31 of Jody Reinhard. Now that 38 of Ignacio Adame is going to try and get the spot, the 3 into the wall. He's going to pull back down on the racetrack. No wreck, no caution. Just a little bit of damage possibly to that 3 car as the 84 of Cullen Johnston pulls up behind, back up to the front of the leaderboard, battle for the 5th spot, and they get turned. That's the 007 of Bobby Rafferty around in turn 3.
Yeah, and he's sitting in a really bad spot, but the drivers did a very good job of being able to get around him there. As we'll get a replay here of exactly what happened on this wreck. We see Rafferty going in there, and 48 just seemed to push up a little bit. There might have been a little bit of netcode there, but I think contact would have still been made without it. So it looked like the car on the bottom just overdrove it a little bit and pushed right up on into him.
And we've been hearing a lot of the drivers complaining about the car getting tight going down into turn 3, so it's possibly that is what happened there as well. The 62 is in. Is he going to take his tires? Yes, he is going to. So it looks like that 62 doing the strategy that you suggested at the beginning of the show, Brian, basically cutting this race in half. 34 laps on those tires. He is going to give them back to his pit crew as they put on 4 fresh Hoosier tires for the last half of this race.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to come down, this is the time to do it. I actually think that anytime after this will be too late because you'll be too far back in the field. So I think that this is the best time to do it.
And it looks like that 62 is actually going to go 1 lap down. He might have some damage. He's rolling now, but rolling incredibly slowly. I believe the pit road exit was closed for him there. Now it opens up. But he lost a lap there. Possible that it was just a long pit stop. These pace laps are pretty quick here at New Smyrna Beach. And I just heard he's asking for a wave around. I'll keep you updated on if he receives it.
Yeah, that's a weird one there. We'll have to keep updated on that situation. There is a chance he could end up getting it back, of course, if people pit and he can get in front of certain guys. So there is the possibility that he could earn it back if he is not given the wave around. But that's going to make his night much harder because I think pitting there was the best strategy, but losing a lap does make it tough.
He has not gotten the the wave around just yet. Currently the last car on the lead lap. So if another caution comes out and he holds that spot from Ignacio Adames, he will be our lucky dog. I believe he is our first car a lap down. We'll see when the timing updates as he crosses over the start-finish line. And yes, he is. Kyle Cisco is your first car 1 lap down. He is racing Ignacio Adames for the lucky dog spot. As we're getting ready to go back to racing, and it looks like Trevor Catalano will start on the inside as the 07 of Kyle Eli chooses the outside line. As we're going right back to racing, the 07 on the outside gets a good jump. The 54 lagging back on the start there a little bit. He is going to have the outside line heading into 1 and 2 as his brother in the 64, Tyler Catalano, looked for second. They're now going to fall in single file as the 36 up by the wall looking to make some passes. Now the 54 going to go to the inside of the 191 for the 5th spot.
Yeah, and these guys are not making it easy on one another on these restarts. They're putting it almost 3 wide sometimes. They are forcing it down in there. As we see the 86 get under, and he spins it out himself to avoid contact with the car on the outside there. I saw it. The trouble was brewing when he sent it in there like that on exit. They were the car on the high side was pinching him down a little bit, and contact was almost made.
Thankfully, no damage to that 86, it looks like. Heads down to 3 and 4, and he was just holding that yellow line, possibly getting a little bit too low there on the apron. And it looks like that car just got loose, spun down to the inside. No damage to the 86, no damage to any other cars. This is simply basically just a caution break, and a very lucky for the Kyle Cisco, as I believe he will be your lucky dog, or did Ignacio Adames got by him? So Adames is going to be your lucky dog here on this caution. Believe it's our 5th caution of the evening. Ignacio Adames going to take that lucky dog. No, it is going to be Kyle Cisco in the 62.
I wonder if Adamas got any X during that when that caution came out, because if at any point if you get an X or an incident point while a caution before a caution comes out in the situation, then it takes away that lucky dog option from you. So it doesn't take much. Anything can do it.
Oh, right there. He got turned around from behind.
Yeah.
And that
So with him
looked
getting
like it was a little bit of a turn from the double zero there of James Sullins.
And I'm sure Adamas is going to be very angry with that situation, because had this not happened, had the double zero checked up when the caution came out there, then we would have seen that Adamas got that wave around instead of Cisco.
Well, back up to the top of the leaderboard. Kyle Eli currently holds the lead. Trevor Catalano in second, Tyler Catalano in third, Matthew Lambert in fourth, Chris Downing fifth, Russell Peets, Jason Hand, Jody Reinhardt, Casey Hatch, and Dave Bitchenar round out your top 10. Your current biggest mover of this race is Dave Bitchenar, started in dead last, 22nd in the feature, and he has gained 12 spots up into P10. A great run for him in his debut in this series, no less. The only Canadian in the field representing his country well, as everybody else continues to pace here at the New Smyrna Speedway under caution, our fifth caution of the evening. And we have had some cars come down pit road. Majority of the field has not made a pit stop yet. They still have one more tire set that they can put on, but only a couple cars have chosen to do that. Everybody up at the front of this field has not yet come down pit road. The only car that has come down pit road out of your top leaders is Chris Downing, and I do not believe he changed tires. It was just damage repair on that 51. So here we go through turn 4. The field going to take the green flag once again. The 54 going to get a good jump. He is to the inside of the 07 of Kyle Eli through turns 1 and 2. And it looks like he got a little tight, went up the track there. He's going to survey the position to the 07 of Kyle Eli, who's now going to try and pull away as we have a slight battle for third and contact the 64 spinning down in the apron.
And he's turned around again, there's so little spots here that you can get turned around without getting touched. And the fact that, again, the field was able to avoid him, because that's down the front straightaway where it is tight at this track. So for him to get turned around like that, just bad situation. We saw him just come up there into the 48. Contact was made, and he just ended up losing it from that point.
"13 laps remain, and it seems like a lot of cautions causing this race to go pretty quickly, as we only have 13 laps to go now in this race here at New Smyrna. Kyle Eli continues to lead, Catalano in second. That is Trevor Catalano. And I believe Tyler Catalano brought his car down pit road. He is all the way back. No, sorry. He did wreck, and now he is bringing his car down pit road, expecting him to get some new Hoosier tires onto that machine, as Ignacio Adame is going to grab that lucky dog spot. He'll pass everybody on the outside line and right back onto the lead lap.
So now we have the interesting strategy of we have some guys on tires, some on not on tires, but we are running out of laps for them to really make up time. Cisco's sitting in the 10th position after all the issues he's been through, and we know he got tires. We're not sure exactly who else got tires, but some other guys that have come down pit road at some point is Chris Downing. He's sitting in 4th. We have Casey Hatch sitting in 8th, who came down on lap 24. Cisco, of course, sitting in 10th. And then in 11th, we have Bobby Rafferty. So these guys have come down pit road, most likely got tires, although we're not sure about Chris Downing. So we'll have to see how this plays out, because tire wear is definitely factoring in, because we've heard them talk about being tight. So as the tires wear off, it's just going to make it even more and more tight. The car's going to have a harder time turning. So those tires can definitely play a factor.
We will be going green inside of 10 to go, expecting to go green with about 8 laps to go, as Kyle Eli continues to lead the way. Arguably fastest car on the racetrack tonight was Kyle Cisco, but like you said, Brian down in that 10th position currently on the leaderboard. And it's going to be very difficult for him because you can pass here at New Smyrna, but it is very difficult, especially on a short track, to really march your way up through the field because those tires, once you start pushing them too hard, start to wear, and they start to wear extremely quickly. But they're back double file. Will be going green on to 8 laps to go here in the feature race here tonight. We race through 2 heats with 4 drivers making it into the feature from each of those heats. We had 6 automatically go in from qualifying, and it is about to reach a crescendo as we get ready for the final 8 laps of this race. Will we see more cautions? Will we be green to the end? Who knows? As the iRacing.com pace car pulls back into pit road, back green. Eli gonna get a good jump as Catalano will rest into second. Now to the inside, the 51, and the 54 gets turned by the 51 of Chris Downing. We're back under yellow.
Yeah, and that all happened from the restart. The 48 of Matthew Lambert got a very good jump on that inside, whereas the 54 didn't get such a quite good jump there. I think there was a little bit of contact made possibly, and the whole situation from there, the 54 was just out of his groove. I'll just miss contact on the start.
Heard some drama over the voice chat once again, and it's basically sounded like Chris Downing was saying, "Hey 54, you came down into my lane." What is your opinion on that wreck, Brian? Because it did look like the 54 came down, but I mean, he's using the arch of the corner. Do you think the 51 just kind of went for that move a little too early?
We'll get a better look at it here to see exactly what happened going into the turn. Yeah, so it looked like there the 51 was going to hook the bottom. The 54 kind of thinking he was clear, possibly maybe trying to block it. Not quite sure. Sometimes the spotters can say clear and you're not. Tried to continue to come down there and just he tapped him and ended up getting turned in that situation.
Some developments from race control. Nicholas Casey, Tyler Catalano, and Patrick Hosier have all been waved around the pace car as we're getting ready for this next restart. And this will be the final restart that is not under overtime, as we were at 8 laps to go when we went back racing. And by the time we go back green, we'll be around 4 or 3 to go. Taking a look at another angle from this wreck. This is from the 64 of Tyler Catalano, right on the back bumper of the 00 in front of him. You can see the 54 wrecking, and it looks like he might have checked up a little bit too much for that wreck happening in front of him and got hit from behind.
Yeah, that's one of those cases where when a wreck happens, some people check up harder than others, where most of the time you want to check up because just driving head first into it isn't the best option, but sometimes you can check up too much and get involved in another accident because someone's not expecting you to check up that hard. So it's just one of those hard things when a caution first comes out, especially on short tracks, to just make sure you're clear of everyone, and that's such a difficult thing to do.
And really how much a driver checks up for the restart is just all determining on how that driver drives. A lot of drivers will check up pretty early for a wreck to make sure they avoid it. Some drivers are going to check up late as possible to try and get as many positions as they can before that yellow flag comes out. But we're getting ready to go back to racing. We'll be going green, 2 laps to go. Here at the New Smyrna Speedway, we get another caution before that white flag comes out. We're going to have a green-white checkered finish. Kyle Eli on the outside in the 07 with a good jump back to racing. Into turn number 1, Kyle Eli with a good jump, and he is going to keep that lead by a few car lengths as the 51 of Chris Downing, the 191 of Russell Peets will battle for the second spot as they're going to come around. No yellow flags, white flag in the air. One more time around New Smyrna Speedway as we have a wreck up at the front. What is that going to do for the leaders as here comes Kyle Eli in the 07 through turns 3 and 4 in his debut at the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series. Eli goes to victory lane at New Smyrna.
Yeah, and that's a special case because you had to hope that all of the cars that were wrecked were out of the way before you made it back there. So great job by the cars that ended up getting wrecked on getting out of the way, and a great run from Kyle Eli.
Getting that win for Siltman Crowder Racing, his debut tonight here on Apex Racing TV at the new Smyrna Speedway. And he is definitely making his presence known here in the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series in the 07 as Kyle Eli taking the win. He started in the second spot. He only had to pass one car tonight, and that was the leader. An amazing drive from him. And this is going to be an exciting series to come as we're taking a look at the schedule next week. We're at Myrtle Beach. After that, Southern National, then Oxford, Martinsville, South Boston, Lanier, Five Flags, and we'll end off the season at USA. So make sure you stay tuned week in and week out here on Apex Racing TV. And we're taking a look at this wreck. I believe this is the wreck that happened when the leaders took the white flag. And it looks like just contact between the 15 and the 84. And there's a huge pack of cars behind him, and it was just a chain reaction from there, Brian.
Yeah, these cars are so close together that typically when one car gets turned, you're going to have a lot more contact to go with it. The wrecks that we saw tonight that no one else was involved are spectacular things because they very rarely happen. So for the ability of people to avoid those wrecks is such a skill. So that's such an amazing thing. But there it was just, like you mentioned, a chain reaction because of how close the cars were together.
Full race results up on your screen now. Kyle Eli grabbing the win in his debut here in the East Coast Thunder Esports Tour Modified Series. Chris Downing in second, Russell Peets in third, Kyle Cisco in fourth, Matthew Lambert fifth, Jason Hand in sixth, Jody Reinhardt seventh, Bobby Rafferty in eighth, Brian Osborne ninth, Tyler Catalano rounds out your top 10 with Colin Johnston in 11th, Ignacio Adames in 12th, Dave Bitchenard in 13th, Nicholas Casey 14th, James Sullins 15th, Casey Hatch 16th, Trevor Catalano 17th, Patrick Hosier in 18th, and rounding out the final four, James Gerald, Bobby Sant Jr., William Kruska, and Steven Barber. That is your full race results here from New Smyrna Beach. We're getting ready for post-race interviews here on Apex Racing TV, so make sure you stay tuned right here. Back live here at the new Smyrna Beach Speedway for the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series. Kyle Eli was able to grab tonight's feature race win with 21 other drivers behind him. An exciting night of racing, an exciting night for the points as those points are getting updated. And we have the winner right here, Kyle Eli, the driver of the 07 for Siltman Crowder Racing. Kyle, congratulations on your win. You only had to pass one car. You had a fast car all night, started on the outside row to begin this race, and all you had to do was get past Kyle Cisco. How was the race from inside your cockpit?
Really good actually. Cars are, really fun to drive. Wish Cisco actually didn't pit there. I think we would have had a really cool battle up front. But the car was really good. The fixed setups in the tour are also they drive really fun each and every week. Pretty loose though, which makes it a lot more interesting, especially you guys up in the booth and everybody watching.
Now, you started on the outside of the front row, and this was your first race of the season. You did not make it last week to New Smyrna. What was this saying to all the other drivers on the grid? Was this a mission statement of, I'm here to win and I'm here to race for the championship in this series?
I guess my plan wasn't really to come in here to really go for a championship, just to have fun. I really love racing these modified, so any league I could race these and kind of just try and do that as much as I can. I know Kyle Cisco, he's really fast everywhere, so he's probably going to be a really major competitor of mine. But I'll definitely be back next week, so if we continue to have good finishes, hopefully I'll be in the championship battle.
Next week, we are heading to the Myrtle Beach Speedway. How confident in you of your driving at that speedway, and do you think you can go back-to-back here in the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series?
That's actually a track I haven't had much experience with in the, the modifieds. Definitely more in the super late models, but we've had some good finishes in the super late models. Hopefully I could bring that skill from that car over to the modified and hopefully get another win or a top 5 there.
Anyone else you would like to thank?
No, just thank you to you guys and William for putting all these amazing events on.
Thank you to Kyle Eli, your winner tonight in the 07 here in New Smyrna Beach Speedway for Siltman Crowder Racing. Now we're going to get an interview with P number 2 finisher. That is Chris Downing in the 51. We'll get him up here in the booth. There he is. Brian, take it away.
Hey, Chris, congratulations on your P2 finish there. That's a good points night for you, as you're going to jump up a good few spots with some of the top point scorers having some troubling nights. How was the race for you down in your cockpit?
Yeah, thanks. That race was all about survival. I got knocked into the wall early. I don't remember who it was. Somebody got tight and had to pit, fix a little bit of damage. I didn't even take tires, and I had to restart in the back, and I just did them off one at a time. Had a few close calls with people spinning out in front of me, but lucky.
Yeah, you mentioned having to pit early there. What was it like coming back up through that field with everything going on? Was it a mess, or were you just staying calm and just trying to put yourself in good positions?
Yeah, I was really fairly decent coming back up through there. I was just trying to stay on the bottom and got hairy a couple of times. They were 3 wide and together in front of me, and just like I said, I got lucky. I found the right hole probably 2 or 3 times where I could have got taken out, but like you said, good points night. It should move me up, be in the top 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So next week, we're heading to Myrtle Beach. How are you feeling about that? With you moving up in points this week, are you going for the points lead next week? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I've been getting a lot of laps in these cars. I've been running a couple other series with them too, and definitely results have been improving. So I'm excited.
Chris,
All
I do have
right.
one quick question for you before we let you go here. We saw you have contact with the 54 of Trevor Catalano close to the end of that race. What was your opinion on that wreck going into turn number 1 on that restart?
Yeah, I gotta apologize to him. I mean, I definitely didn't mean to take him out. He kind of left me in a bind because he changed lanes before the start finish line, and kind of. I mean, there was room, but he kind of cut my nose off, and it was either felt like if I didn't dive underneath him, I was going to get run over from behind, or get into him if I went into the corner too hard. So it was just hard racing. I didn't mean to take him out, but go back and change it.
Anyone else you would like to thank?
Yeah. Thank you guys obviously for broadcasting, and everyone else for putting these races on. It's a lot of fun.
Chris Downing in the 51, finishing second here tonight at the New Smyrna Beach Speedway. We're going to move on to our third place finisher, the final driver on the podium. It is Russell Peets in the 191. Russell, congratulations to you on your top 3 finishing spot. You started back in 11th, gaining 8 spots throughout the night. Was it difficult to move up through the field, especially with the amount of cautions that we saw here tonight?
Oh, for sure. I think the goal of the night was just to save tire. Save tire early, and hopefully you're there at the end.
And you did not pit throughout the entire race. Was that your strategy, to not use that extra tire set that you had and just try and save those tires to go completely pit free to the end?
Yeah, it's just so hard to pass that even if you got fresh tires, they only last for 5 or 10 laps, and then you're going to burn them up just like the set you had. So it's just save.
And we're going to Myrtle Beach next weekend. You're moving up in the points, especially with that third place finish here tonight. Do you think that you can make a run at the championship throughout the season, or do you think that you're kind of going to be in the back hoping to make sure that you can get up into that championship fight, because it is going to be a fight between only 3 or 4 cars?
Yeah, I think we can get there. I think we just got to be consistent and get the top 5s in all the races, and I think we'll be there at the end of the season.
Anybody else you would like to thank?
I just want to thank Epcar eSports for sponsoring the car. That's pretty much it. My teammates, we work pretty well together. We help each other out. We're all pretty fast, and it's thanks to everybody involved in our whole team.
Russell Peets, your third place finisher here tonight in the 191. That'll conclude our broadcast of the East Coast Thunder Esports Series here from the New Smyrna Beach Speedway. Brian, it was an exciting race. We saw another caution-filled night, but it seemed like tonight we had a lot more battling than we did in New Hampshire. A first-time winner in his first race of the season, and a championship shakeup here tonight. And we do have updated point standings. Getting these to you right now. Matthew Lambert taking the points lead with 121 points. 1 point behind is Chris Downing. And then back behind them, 3 points behind, is the driver of Tyler Catalano. So your top 3 in the points as updated as Bobby Sant Jr. drops to 4th, with Russell Peets now currently in 5th. Brian, we're heading to Myrtle Beach next week. Do you expect the points to get even more shaken up, because that track, much like New Hampshire, much like New Smyrna, is very different than what we've seen so far?
Yeah, it's really going to show the drivers who have diverse skill sets, those that can drive on many different style of tracks, because 3 different tracks in a row that are going to be completely different from one another. So these guys are slowly kind of starting to learn what one another is going to do. We saw some new drivers tonight that could have led to some incidents. So a lot of it's just, as the season goes on, you kind of fill out your drivers, you know what's going to happen. So I think the racing again is just going to get even better for us. And so I'm excited to see what happens down at the beach.
And we are heading to Myrtle Beach Speedway for round number 3 of the season next week. You can catch it live right here on Apex Racing TV. For Brian Delp, Marco Barbanera, I am Joshua Lee. And we thank you for joining us here on Apex Racing TV for another race of the East Coast Thunder Esports Tour Modified Series. And we hope you have an amazing Thursday evening and Friday morning. We are saying goodbye from New Smyrna.